Hi everyone, this is Van Man, and welcome to episode 6 of my chess rating climb, where I play a game of chess and track my progress. Let's hop into a 15-minute game. Okay, we got the white pieces, and we'll start with e4 here. Okay, so against a Pierce defense, we'll just take the center. Yep. Okay, so I expect a fianchetto with the bishop, so I'm gonna hop in my knight to protect the pawn, and then if he fianchettos, I'm going to want to bring out my bishop to e3, yep. But before I do that, I'm actually going to play a slightly unconventional move f3 to prevent the knight from attacking my bishop, because eventually I'm going to want to create this battery with the queen and the bishop. Yep, that doesn't surprise me. Okay, so this is all going according to plan. This is all theory. I'll probably castle on the next turn, bring my bishop up to h6, trade off this bishop, and launch a kingside attack. That's the plan. Okay, so now the question is, do I castle first, or do I go ahead and offer the bishop trade? Because the thing is, if I castle first, then my opponent could slide the rook over, and then when I offer the bishop trade, they could decline the bishop trade by sliding the bishop back. Whereas if I offer the bishop trade now, they can't do that because the bishop is pinned to the rook. Okay, however, I need to consider this loose pawn here. Yeah, right now, I actually don't think I can offer the bishop trade, because then after they take and I take back, this pawn falls. So I actually do have to castle first. Alternatively, I could have pushed this pawn to win a tempo on the knight, but I actually don't want this knight going to e5 here, because that would disrupt the kingside attack. Okay, so a6 I think is still theory. I think it is a little bit too slow though, so I am going to go ahead and offer the bishop trade now. And I'll pre-move the take back with the queen. And yeah, so let's go ahead and snap this off. And then I'm going to play g4 in preparation for h4 and h5. Yeah, I'm not really concerned about kicking my knight. The question is, where do I actually bring my knight? So here's the thing. This particular knight I don't think is going to be involved in the kingside attack. So I think I can just use this knight to protect my own king by bringing it back to b1 and securing these weak squares on the third rank. But now I can go ahead and keep pushing my pawns. Okay. So I probably want to push either my g-pawn or my h-pawn. The question is which one. Pushing my g-pawn is a little bit more forcing, because that forks his pawn and his knight. And so, like, let's say I push my g-pawn, and he takes, well then I can take with the queen and start infiltrating into his position. Okay? Or alternatively, if he moves his knight, well, actually, he'll probably move his knight to g8 to protect this square here. So that actually is a pretty good move. I kind of expected h5, not h6. And I don't think I want to push h5, because then he pushes g5 and closes down the position. I do think I want to open up the position, though. Because if I push g5, and he defends his h-pawn with his knight, I can go ahead and take, and even though he's taking back with his knight, I've still weakened his king somewhat. And I might even have rook sacrificing ideas later. So, yeah, I think that is the play. Oh, so he didn't defend it with his knight. Okay, so now the question is, do I take with the king? Or excuse me, the queen, or do I take with the pawn? I think I take with the pawn, because I want to open up lines to his king. And it'll also force the issue with his knight. Yeah, I like that. I really like that. Because if I take with the pawn, he has to move his knight. If he wants to keep it by his king, he has to move his knight in such a way that blocks his rook from sliding over. Or he has to move his knight all the way over here, or excuse me, over this way, which brings his knight away from the defense of the king. So yeah, let's go ahead and take with the pawn here. Open up that nice juicy h-file. Okay, he is blocking with his knight, but yeah, I think if I just develop my bishop and my knight and connect my rooks, I will have rook sacrificing ideas later. Yeah, so let's develop the bishop, and let's see, where are we developing the bishop to? Yeah, let's develop the bishop here. That way we have ideas of bringing my knight here to h3, and if he trades his bishop for his knight, I'm more than happy to take back with my rook and then create the battery along the h-file. And if he doesn't, then I'm more than happy to offer the trade of knights on this f4 square here. Okay, so he is forcing the issue with this pawn. I don't think I'm too concerned about that though. So I obviously have to deal with this pawn because if I let him take, then there's no way to stop him from either taking this knight or promoting. Okay, so the question is, do I take this pawn with my a pawn? Do I take it with my c pawn? Or do I just push my a pawn? I think I take with my c pawn. Yeah, I think I take with my c pawn because after my knight gets out, I can just slide my king over and hide behind my a and b pawn. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and take there. I mean, that was definitely a temporary pawn sacrifice on his part, but like I don't think he has anything in his attack, because now I can just push my a pawn to kick his knight out, and then like his knight could go to a2 in that case and check my king, but that check isn't scary. Let's see. Alternatively, actually no, this looks a lot better. Alternatively, I could just bring my knight, just centralize it to c3 to protect my a pawn, and also give my king a little bit of an escape square. So he's offering the bishop trade. I'm not concerned about that, because this is kind of a bad bishop anyway. I'd like to trade it off. I'm not going to take here, because that will just allow him to infiltrate with his rook into my position and get his rook on the open c file. So I don't want that. I will, however, go ahead and just route my knight to the f4 square here. Definitely worth noting, though, that... Interesting. Okay, I definitely didn't expect that move. Okay, let's back up. I was about to say definitely worth noting that if I were to move my knight here, that would drop a pawn, because that would leave my queen... that would actually overload my knight, because he would take my knight, I would take back with the queen, and then this knight would be overloaded guarding both this bishop and this pawn. Okay, but that didn't happen. Okay, so do I close down the position, or do I open up the position? Because I'm already up a pawn, so I'm kind of okay with just trading pawns, and then trading off the queen and the rook, just going to an endgame up a pawn. Do I have a more devastating attack, though? That's the question. I mean, if he's offering to go into an endgame with me up a pawn, I'm kind of okay with that, just to simplify the position. Alternatively, I could take this pawn, and when he takes back, I could slide my queen out of the way to attack his queen. I'm trying to see exactly like what that would accomplish. I mean, I am up a pawn. I may as well go ahead and take it. Interesting. So doesn't that just lose a pawn? Doesn't that just lose a pawn? Because now, after I take back with my queen, his d-pawn is now pinned to his queen. So that just loses a pawn now. Because I'm not going to take back with my knight, because then that drops my a-pawn. So yeah, I'll just take with the queen. Right? Okay, so now he's attacking my my queen with the knight, but that's still fine, because I can just slide my queen here to g2, and where's his knight going? His knight just has to go back to where it was. Yeah, that's not a problem at all. Is there anything better? Is there anywhere else that I can move my queen? Okay, I considered moving it to g2, but I don't know, I actually think h2 looks a little bit more juicy, right? Threatening this checkmate idea? But then again, I don't know. If I move my queen to h2, he just slides his rook over and pins my knight to my queen. So on second thought, I don't think that's actually a good idea, because he could easily respond with rook h2. So yeah, queen g2 does look like the play. Okay, how did I miss that the rook was hanging? How in the world did I miss that? Okay, hang on a second. Wow, he had that tactic the whole time. forking the bishop and the rook. So I should have actually just traded off this bishop here. I cannot believe I missed that. How did I miss that that rook was going to be attacked by the knight? Okay, well, ironically, I do still think I'm actually better here, because material is even. Well, actually, I say that material is actually not even. I probably should have taken back with the queen. Because if I had taken back with the queen, that would have continued the pin on this pawn here. But now I can go ahead and take that pawn, because I think he missed the opportunity to take this pawn when he had the chance. So yeah, let me go ahead and take this pawn here. Yeah, I definitely messed up that fork. Okay, so I could slide my rook over and attack the queen. That does just seem like a vanity attack, though. It doesn't seem like it accomplishes much, because the queen could just move out of the way. I could kick this knight out to allow my knight to move, because right now my knight's tied down to defending my pawn. Alternatively, I could slide my king over, which actually looks better. If I slide my king over, because it is kind of exposed right now, if I slide my king over, that would allow my king to be a little safer and also allow my knight to move. Yeah, let's actually go ahead and do that. I'll slide my king over, which will allow my knight to get into the game later. So can I still slide my rook over? His queen would have to move. I take the rook. The d1 square is currently defended by my knight. He is threatening a check with his queen on d3. I'm not sure how much that check actually means, though. Oh, actually, no. That check actually is quite devastating, because I would have to slide my king over to a1. I couldn't slide it to c1 because, well, no, I was about to say he would be threatening checkmate, but he's actually not threatening checkmate because my queen is covering the c2 square. But that does look pretty dangerous, so I actually do think I need to slide my rook over just to prevent him from infiltrating his queen into my position. Really? That's quite surprising. So he's willing to give up his queen for a rook and a knight. That doesn't seem correct. Oh my gosh. I cannot believe I just did that. That's a back rank checkmate. I cannot believe I just did that. I'm flabbergasted. The knight controls this square, so the king has no escape. Wow. Okay, well, that's really embarrassing. Yeah, honestly, I don't think there's just a whole lot to review in this game, because, like, I know exactly where I messed up. I messed up with that checkmate at the end, obviously, and I messed up with the fork. So, oh my gosh, yeah, this is embarrassing. Look at this graph here. So many mistakes. Oh my gosh, I played with a 55.3% accuracy. That's the lowest accuracy game I've had on this channel. Oh my, yeah, that's so embarrassing. Look at this. Look at this. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see it on the screen here, but... Oh, I'm sorry, I actually have to switch over to review mode. Okay, yeah, 55.3% accuracy. Look at this graph with all these orange dots, so many mistakes, and yeah, you can't see it on the screen, but it says I played with an 800 game rating, and my opponent played with a 1200 game rating. That is abysmal. I almost don't even want to post this video. This game was so bad, but I'm gonna post it just to, you know, hold myself accountable. But yeah, that was terrible. One of the worst games I've ever played. Okay, yeah. So we're definitely gonna review this. Okay, this is all theory. Fine, castle. Okay. Okay, so it didn't want me to move here. This is actually a pretty thematic move in the King's Indian defense. I'm kind of surprised that it said that was a mistake. Okay. So black was supposed to push the pawn, and then what happens if I push here? Take. And then where's the knight go? And then I offer the trade of knights. Okay, but why is that a mistake, though? That doesn't seem like it's a mistake. It just seems like it's an even trade of material. Like it's an even game. Okay. Okay, trade that off. Okay, so I was just supposed to offer the trade here. Fine. Okay, so I was supposed to kick a knight. Okay, so right there, that was a miss from black. They were supposed to... Oh, wait, what? They were supposed to take my pawn? Hang on a second. They were supposed to take my pawn. I take back with the knight. And then how does that not just lose a piece? Oh, I see. Because of this fork that we talked about earlier. Okay, then I move my queen. And then they take here. Yeah, and I'm left with 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, and they're left with 1, 2, 3 pieces, and I have 2 knights for the rook. Huh. So the computer actually wants black to have a rook for the 2 knights. That's really interesting. Even though white is actually advantaged here. Huh. Yeah, I would not have guessed that. Okay. Yeah, so, yeah, right here, this right here is where I messed up. Okay, I was supposed to take this bishop to prevent black from forking my pieces here. Yep, that's right where I messed up. So that was my first really big mistake. Was taking with the queen here. Okay. Yeah, so I should have taken back with the knight. That way black doesn't have this forking square available, and even though it drops the A-pawn, it's still better than being forked. Okay, yeah, so that was my first big mistake. I acknowledge that. Okay, then I move my queen over. Yep, and then right here, I actually acknowledge this in the game. I should have taken with the queen. Right there, I should have taken with the queen to maintain the pin on this pawn. Okay, so it is still an even game here. Until right there, which is when I drop the material. Yep, and then moving my king over. Actually made my king less safe. I was just supposed to kick the knight out. And then right there, that's when I hung mate in 2. Oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing. I cannot believe I didn't see that the king couldn't escape. Of course the king can't escape because the square is protected by the knight. Of course. I was just completely blinded to that. Oh my gosh, that's so weird. I saw the open square on c2 and I was like, oh yeah, of course my king can escape there. But nope, it's defended by the knight. That's really embarrassing. Okay, well, definitely the worst game I've played on the channel so far. Sorry for making you all sit through that because, I'm sure that you were cringing just as hard as I was during the review. But, we're going to learn, we're going to keep moving, and we're going to keep improving. So thanks for being with me this far, and I'll see you all in tomorrow's video. Bye.